Everyone loves an old-fashioned hike along the railroad tracks. This line dates back to the mid-1800s and has hardly been used in the last few decades. We're following these tracks deep into the woods looking for the remains of the town of Fry's Mill, which dates back to the colonial era. I hope I locked the car.
I hope he comes back.
Yeah, now it's locked. Following the railroad tracks, we've reached the Manamuskin Creek and we got a bridge crossing over it. We're a few miles inland, actually, quite a few miles inland. A couple miles that way is Maurice River, and then if you follow Maurice River for a few more miles, you finally hit the Delaware Bay. However, we're actually still not past the high tide mark from the 1750s. And in the 1750s and 60s, the water in high tide would still rise up to past there, which is why the settlement that we're about to survey was settled just up that way. It was just at the high water mark. That's Matt, by the way. Matt, say hi. Hi. See? That's his name. I figure before we start surveying Fry's Mill, let's sit down and brew a cup of coffee or something. I brought coffee.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I finally get to test this. This is a solar lighter. The shape of the mirror in the bottom focuses the sun's rays into one single spot. You really have to hold it steady in order to make it work. These are the New Jersey Pine Barrens. In southern New Jersey, there's this massive tract of forest, and it's mostly pine trees. It's dense, it's thick, it's allegedly haunted, but there are tons of ghost towns all throughout it. One of the most famous ones is Fry's Mill. Fry's Mill has an interesting history. Actually, it really doesn't. But a lot of people mistake Fry's Mill for something else. If you look up Fry's Mill ruins, you get concrete industrial ruins, and then people always say these are from the 1700s. That's not the case. Fry's Mill itself is from 1770. It wasn't called Fry's Mill at the time. Adjacent to it, right down the railroad tracks, is the old New Jersey Silica Sand Company. Those are the ruins that everybody calls Fry's Mill. The actual 1770s ruins are really just brick chimneys and a bridge at this point. But we are going to be exploring both. Breaking down our first camp, we deviated away from the railroad and followed what was once a carriage road, heading north towards the old Fry's Mill settlement.
Did any settlers in Fry's Mill or other parts of the Pine Barrens fight in the Revolutionary War?
Oh, almost certainly. That there are all sorts of stories, Hessians in this area. Of course, we're not too far south of Trenton. We're about an hour south. There was the Battle of Trenton, but Hessians were the German mercenaries. And they held Trenton, and they held the area south of there, all the way down to Cape May. There's plenty of stories of actual massacres that occurred, of both Continental soldiers and of Hessians. I believe there's a Quaker house or a Quaker church around here where there's still bloody handprints in the upstairs rooms of where American soldiers were executed. Established in 1770, just prior to the American Revolution, by one of the many Jonathan Smiths of the time, the settlement started as a sawmill. Around 100 years later, it was purchased by John Fry's, who changed the name to Fry's Mill so that everyone knew whose mill it was. At the town of Fry's Mill, there were a few manor houses, smaller cottages, a general store, a chapel, and a tavern. The town lived until the early 1900s, but we reached the remains of our first site shortly before noon, a small cottage along the Manamuskin Creek on the outskirts of the old settlement. So rumors are that this site is from the 1770s. It's not. The site is. The first founded town here is from the 1770s, but there's no way this cabin is. The remains that are here are concrete and cinder block. I mean, that's at oldest early 1900s. But I've been surveying the area, and I've been able to lay out what the foundation was. We have the chimney here, which is the most prominent feature on the site. Back behind it, and to its left, is this concrete foundation, rectangular shape. To the right of the chimney, and stretching a good 20 to 25 feet, are the sides of this foundation. And they go down one level, and almost to the second dip beyond that. And then they cut across. There's a little side room here. These foundations are all cinder block, by the way. And then there's a whole bunch of garbage down in this area. That's leather. Whistle. Registered. The only name that I could possibly put to this site is Potter's Cabin. I've heard people say that there are two sites, Potter's Cabin and an old Fry's Mill Tavern. And the Fry's Mill Tavern has two chimneys. This only has one. So this must be Potter's Cabin. It's possible that the stone chimney's older and was integrated into a later house, but this cabin itself is not that old. If there's anything Red Dead Redemption taught me, it's that there's loot in every chimney. Every time I shake it, it points a different way.
Maybe it's like Jack Sparrow's compass.
Well, it's pointing at Matt right now.
Yeah. Your bestest friend.
Packed up and heading to the next site. This is going to be the old Fry's Mill Tavern. We should see two chimneys in a couple of minutes. This is the Fry's Mill Tavern. It's a very basic site. The chimneys are really neat, overgrown. There's two chimneys and there's a cellar hole over there. This is probably also from the 20s. I doubt it's much older than that. There's a lot of concrete on the site.
What kind of bird that is?
It's a chimney here and a chimney here. Very start of a foundation right there. It ends abruptly. And then cellar hole right there, which is actually starting to buckle in this way. The ground caving in on it. But now, let's check for treasure again. What's interesting is how remote we are, and there's the ruins of a tavern and a cabin out here. There's also a chapel nearby, and a few other homes. Those are down the way, and there's not much left of those. There's no road that leads out here. The access road was across a bridge, which is half gone now. So this is a very isolated town. It's not too hard to get to. You can walk the train tracks and then follow a trail back here. All right, well that's it. We're packing up. We're moving on to the next site. We're gonna take a quick look around and see if there's any unknowns around here that we might be able to uncover and maybe chart real quick. But then we're gonna move on to the Sand Company ruins. Emma, did we lose Matt?
Yes, he's gone.
I haven't seen him in about an hour. All right, well, now we got a new problem. I sent Matt off to try to find some other sites nearby that are perhaps unknown, and now he is lost. We called him. He doesn't know where he is. He tried shouting, and we can't hear him. So now we got to go find him. I got him to send us his location. That's not that bad. It's off the trail. but we'll find him. I have a suspicion that his phone sent me the wrong location. Like maybe Google Maps couldn't zero in correctly, because I don't think he got that far in that short of a time. So I'm cutting across. I'm going with my gut, which I hope is not a mistake. Interesting. Very large clearing. An absolute silence. There's dogs barking in the distance. We gotta keep quiet. I don't know if you can hear. This is state land, so we're allowed here. But there's a lot of people warning about this one guy who lives on adjacent land. He's got 2 Doberman, and he'll chase away anyone who comes here.
I kind of wandered off. I am by what looks like a lake or something that way. I don't know how I got lost exactly. Because I was just trying to find like any other kind of man-made structure, like a chimney or something like that. It doesn't seem like I went that far. Maybe at the most 15 minutes for me to wind up where I'm at now. And now they are trying to find me.
Where is he?
He doesn't know. He's on the shore of a blue lagoon. And I know roughly where that is. We reach the water and we'll find him. We've just got all this dense brush here. Got to get through this. We came across this while looking for Matt. This is old. I don't see concrete here. I wish we had the time to survey this. Lots of foundations here. We're going through the old village. This site could possibly date back to the 1800s. It's getting sandier now. We have to be close to the lagoon. His location says he's just down here. Wow. That's beautiful. I see you in there. Did you make a friend? You're talking to somebody. Matt makes friends everywhere. When I said look around, I didn't mean keep going.
I couldn't find my way back.
Well, we found the lagoon, and like everything in New Jersey, it is illegal to swim in it. Finding Matt puts us right on the doorstep of the factory ruins. We just have to follow this trail a little bit, and that's the ruins over there. The trail converged back onto the railroad tracks a little ways down from where we first deviated from them, and we followed them a ways farther until we started seeing ruins in the forest to our right. It was clear that the first site belonging to the New Jersey Silica Sand Company was a hotspot for partiers, ravers, and anyone else who shops at Spencer's Gifts. Graffiti, vandalism, and weird art projects were everywhere you looked at this first place. This structure almost certainly was for piling up the sand. It's divided up into different stalls, and there's still sand in that one right there. We're going to be coming up soon on the main resting site where we can really relax and set the bags down for an hour or two. We pushed through the ruins to the shore of the lagoon opposite from where we were a few minutes prior, and set up a midday camp, planning to survey the rest of the ruins when we had rested. What could be better than relaxing for an hour on the shores of this cool blue lake, taking in the fresh breeze, and sitting in the shade cooking snow crab legs, asparagus, and fried pineapples. Look at that. Oh, it's so good. That's the best crab I've ever had. Better than red lobster. We just set up and ate right there. There's a little bit of ruins right here. Now we're gonna make our way down here and check out this set of ruins. Finished lunch. Had some nice crab legs and asparagus. Now we're trying to make our way to some of the last sites that remain around here from the New Jersey Silica Sand Company. This forest is vast, with a lot of sand patches in it. This is one of the last ruins we're trying to find. I don't know what that is. It's pads. Very large concrete pads. Well, this was thrilling. Let's take a peek at what's down here. You can feel the heat coming off of it. Looks like just rubble and railroad ties, but let's see anyway. Wow, what happened here? Looks like an impact.
Is this anything related to the sand?
Oh yeah, this is definitely a sand factory. I keep calling it the sand factory as if they produce sand. They quarry sand. The flats were anticlimactic. So now we're moving on to one final site before we call it a day. We should rejoin the railroad track, or at least a spur line. About 100 feet or so down the way, we should hit a tower of some sort. Although I heard that it recently collapsed, so at least we'll see the ruins. There's the rail line. And we want to go this way, parallel to the rails. Oh, what is this? One site that we were not expecting was what appeared to be a rather large, solid concrete foundation. It looked almost like a bunker, and it had once had vertical steel beams rising up from it. Not sure what else to call it other than the milk bunker, since there were about a half a dozen jugs of spoiled milk there. Fall down there, you're gonna have a hard time getting back up. I don't know if there's a way into what I'm standing on. I'm trying to find some sort of a doorway. I'm not seeing it. It's just some very solid foundation. Wonder what for. All the steel's been cut clean. The tower should be just in here. There's some more ruins right there. Bunch of cinder blocks. Hundreds of them. And it looks like the tower. Behind me is a site that was known as the Tower. It recently collapsed, but it was one of the most iconic sites in the whole ghost town that is the New Jersey Sand Company. And these are pretty neat. Clearly this is a belt that was meant to cup the sand up. It's a sand lift belt. Very interesting. Never seen one of those before. Cast nylon, not particularly old, maybe 60s or 70s. So this site was probably still running as far back as then. There's an old cement mixer up there. We've now finished our day surveying Fry's Mill. We were able to survey a bunch of sites, figure out where Potter's Cabin and the old Fry's Mill Tavern were. We found Matt, we didn't lose him after all. And we got to explore some of the New Jersey Silica Sand Factory that probably ended around the 70s or 80s. That's my guess for when it closed. I'm sure the records are online somewhere. I didn't get a chance to research that prior to this video. The history of that sand company in this backwoods settlement in the middle of New Jersey Pine Barrens, it's not too exciting. Hopefully though, this video was interesting. Just seeing some neat ruins in the middle of a forest.